My favorite video game of all time is Animal Crossing on the GameCube. If I could only play one game for the rest of my life, it would be that one, and I often find myself missing it and wanting to go back to revisit it. This is such a contrast to New Horizons, which I ended up quitting entirely because of how the golden days with that game for me are long gone. But with Animal Crossing GCN, it's all about nostalgia, a term that was closely associated with the game even before the heightened effect of nostalgia really became a thing like it is now. But in revisiting the game and reliving those old experiences, I often find myself discovering new parts of the game, interesting mechanics or just bizarre occurrences that give the game more depth than any other installment in the series, and even 22 years after its release, I'm still discovering new things about it. Several years ago, we took a close look at a lot of these fascinating game components, but there was so much that ended up not being included in that video. And now, 4 years later, we're going to revisit the game and discover even more about it. Welcome to Everything You Never Knew About Animal Crossing for GameCube 2. To kick off the video, let's start off with one of my favorite less discussed aspects of the game, that being weather. Now for something as mundane as weather, you might not think that there's really anything to discuss about it, but in fact there are a few secrets related to it, and what it's like outside. In the game, there are 4 different types of weather: sun, rain, snow, and thunderstorms. Each type of weather can trigger some unique effects within the game, aside from the typical changes in available bugs or fish that can be obtained depending on what weather is occurring. One of my favorite weather effects happens on sunny days during the summer months, enabling the player to receive a tan. At first, you might end up discovering this by accident, especially if you fish a lot near the ocean like I did, but basically, during the summer, if you spend a lot of time on the coast, the rays from the sun will darken your skin, similar to what happens in real life. The same effect can also be achieved with long durations of time spent on Animal Island at any time of the year, since it's always summer there. It's not permanent though, and goes away after a while of playing. But curiously, if the player is holding an umbrella, it will prevent them from getting a tan entirely. This is one of the only practical uses of the umbrella tool in the entire game. Now another weather secret during the summer months can be seen inside your house during thunderstorms. You'll be able to tell the difference between rain and thunderstorms because of the rumbles of thunder you can hear and the flashes of light that appear. But this same phenomenon can be experienced indoors too. If you go inside your house and turn off the lights and anything that's creating noise, you can actually hear the thunder and see the lightning while inside. I always thought this was a cozy addition they added to the game, and something that they didn't have to include at all, considering the player would probably never notice if it wasn't there to begin with. However, one of the best kept secrets about weather in the game is such a rare occurrence that can only be seen given specific circumstances, it's why most players have never encountered it. This is the elusive rainbow. On the next sunny day, following one that had previously been rainy, visit your waterfall and over the top of it, a rainbow can be seen. This is one of my original pictures that I took years ago after discovering it for myself, completely unaware that this was in the game at all. But the specifics for how to get this to occur are up for debate. One GameFAQs FAQ online mentions that the rainbow can only be seen after a thunderstorm day, while another claim by Animal Crossing veteran Jeff says that this happens after normal rainy days in a blog post. Jeff also mentions that it's only visible in the early morning, which makes sense considering most players probably never get up early on a sunny day, specifically following a rainy one, then look over the top of their waterfall. Oh, and apparently back in the day, there were also rumors about all kinds of disastrous weather like tornadoes and volcanic eruptions that could ruin your town, but all of these are debunked in the GameFAQs FAQ. On the topic of the town itself, there are a few interesting aspects of the town structure that most players have likely not encountered, because they either didn't know where to look, or the chance of them happening is extremely rare. Firstly, is a secret that's right in front of you when you play the game. In fact, it's everywhere if you look closely at the ground. Did you know there are a total of 3 different pattern types of grass your town could have? These include triangles, circles, and squares. As far as I can tell, it's entirely random, and there's no way to influence which one you'll have, but curiously, these patterns end up changing in the winter once the snow starts gathering on the ground, and then change into snow patterns. The snow patterns consist of squares, circle/hexagon, and stars. Whichever grass pattern you have in your town correlates to a certain type of snow pattern you'll get, with the star one being the favorite of the community. It does look really cool, and is something you might not even realize until you discover other patterns were put in the game at all. But secondarily to those patterns that cover your town are the towns themselves. In the GameCube version, there is a fixed formation that the town occupies, and it can't be edited or changed like in New Horizons. In fact, the entire acre system is exclusive to all the games pre-Wild World, and it never saw a return in the series. But what's most curious about these towns are the layers within them. This is how high your town reaches and is determined by slopes. Every slope connects a higher layer to a lower one, and you can easily tell which layer you're on if you look up and see cliffs above you. Most commonly, towns sit in 2 layers. My original town is only a 2-layer town, and for a long time I thought this was all you could get. But apparently towns can reach 3 layers. This is a very rare town structure and is dubbed a happy glitch, resulting in the town feeling much bigger, and includes 2 waterfalls. I wonder if that means rainbows can actually spawn over both waterfalls at the same time. I've read some discussion that the game doesn't really intend to generate 3-layered towns, which could be the reason why they're so rare, but there are enough people who have them to determine it's not entirely a fluke. However, 4-layer towns do not exist, and cannot be generated in the game normally. However, through hacking, it is possible to access an unused layer, as seen in a video by YouTube user Kueller. Separate from layers, another desired land formation is known as an island. Not the animal island, but little pieces of land that are connected by 2 bridges. I actually have one of these in my original town, and always thought it was cool, not realizing it was a desired structure. But it does make for a nice place for planting some flowers and fishing from too. But that's enough of the outdoors for now. Let's go inside and check out some cool features with your house itself, one of which is my favorite glitch in the entire game. Oh, but first, make sure you have a lot of space to try out this glitch. Put away some gyroids if you have to. In fact, you can only have 14 gyroids turned on at any one time, and if you attempt to turn a 15th one on, another one will turn itself off. Anyway, while there are a handful of glitches you can perform in this game, this is one of the more well-known ones, and is called the Walk on Tables glitch. Basically, the trick requires a table to be placed in front of you, a little runway, and a secondary item to touch. Firstly, drop the table and then walk downwards to touch an item. Then run up to the table and place a 2x1 item down just as you nearly hit it. If done on the right coordinate, the item you tried to place will force you up on the table to make room for it to spawn. Now, there's another trick you can perform up here, as demonstrated by user Bosby. The second part of this involves dropping an item on top of the table while you're standing on it, removing the table, and then dropping a secondary 1x1 item which spawns above it. Once leaving and re-entering, the items will swap positions, and once re-entering again, the top item will permanently be fixed to the bottom item, so no matter where it goes, it'll always be there. And it doesn't matter how many times you grab it, a new one will always be created. You can use this exploit to spawn multiples of really rare items for your collection, or you can sell them all and make a lot of money. I'm not sure who originally discovered this glitch, but one of its first documented uses was posted online by Brian MP16 all the way back in 2007. There's a secondary application to this glitch as well, if performed against the right wall itself and not while running against other items. If you use the Walk on Tables glitch in this position, it'll push you above the invisible wall of the room, and you can basically walk on the space above it, creating an entire new level that can be accessed by the player. I love being able to do this, and it's fun putting stars, moons, or other sky-related items up here to create a levitation effect. And while they do stay spawned up here, it doesn't harm your game at all, but you will have to perform the glitch again if you want to get back up there to take them down. Glitch aside, it's really interesting just looking at these videos and seeing the old history they have with the community. Wild World had only been out for 2 years when this first video was posted, but I don't think it was Brian's videos that first exposed me to this side of the game, and instead it was from a user named Bowser's Enemy, who became well known in the community for his glitch and secret videos about the game. I probably would have spent a ridiculous amount of time looking for any of his videos, if it had been for a thread from the Lost Media Wiki forums that informed me he apparently deleted his videos some time ago, and a lot of them are still missing. I guess Bowser's Enemy is still active online under a new username, but nothing has come from inquiring about reposting the videos. But if walking on tables wasn't crazy enough for you, you could actually walk on water in this game, and use a pretty big exploit to get to Animal Island without the Game Boy Advance as intended. This was a glitch I was never able to perform myself because it's pretty precise. It can only be done in winter and involves a large-sized snowball and an item. You want to angle the snowball so it's right on the edge of the snow and place an item down directly in front of it. When you go to pick up the item, the collision will push the snowball and slide you into the ocean, making it so you're standing on the water. From here you're able to walk out of bounds and into a black void, but there's nothing to do here. So instead, what makes it more worthwhile is being able to walk straight to Animal Island and even take a ride back from Cap'n as if you had a GBA connected. But what makes this glitch even more fascinating is the fact that the island was loaded in while the season was winter, giving it a snowy appearance. The island is always supposed to be in the summer season, so this is a rare sight that couldn't be seen through normal means. Like I've said before when describing this game, Animal Crossing GameCube has always had this mysterious vibe to it, like you never knew what was going to happen or how far the game actually goes, even in the most mundane of places. We've looked at some pretty normal spots that actually contain really hidden content, but now let's turn our attention to one of the first locations you lay eyes on every time you start the game, the Bulletin board. On an old fan site I first visited back in the late 2000s that I can't find anymore and was probably deleted at some point in time over the past 2 decades, it talked about a few unsolved mysteries within the game, one of which pointed out a post on the Bulletin board. For those unaware, the Bulletin board is a place for players, villagers, and unnamed characters to write messages related to the town or upcoming events. Most of the time these posts are either so generic, there's not much to investigate, or they're signed by the person who wrote them. But as that one website pointed out, there was a post made by someone the day after the 4th of July fireworks event, which is considered an unsolved mystery. If you check the board on July 5th, there will be a nasty note complaining about how this character had to work during the show, despite the place being deserted. Not only is this kind of message really out of place compared to all the other messages that get left, well, almost all of the other messages, the question is posed as to who wrote this angry message. As a kid when I read this, I always thought it was Tom Nook, but the website made a compelling argument that this is actually Phyllis, and it makes sense given how we never actually see Tom Nook show anger or frustration, maybe with the exception of that one time you show up for work without your uniform. Phyllis, by far, complains much more, and comments on how she's missing her TV shows when she's at work, so we already have the context that she doesn't like being at her job. It's a fun detail to think about, and speaking of Phyllis, in the last video showcasing the game, we talked to Pelly after creating a series of specific circumstances in which rare dialogue would activate, such as trying to send a letter to another player whose mailbox is already full, and trying to mail a letter to a villager that no longer lives in your town. But we didn't talk to Phyllis when it came to these specific scenarios, so let's see what she has to say when we try mailing a letter to someone whose mailbox is already full. And finally, let's see what happens when we try sending a letter to someone who doesn't live in the town anymore. There are a few more locations in the game, like the post office, that hide some secrets and were also the subject of fake rumors that were spread around back in the day. Firstly, for the real stuff, Tom Nook's shop has a couple of details that he seemed to overlook when he opened his shop, like how the welcome mat in front of the store is actually reversed, so the text is going backwards, and how the information sign in his shop says information, it's missing the R. There's also a bit of an unsolved mystery that I stumbled upon while playing the game years ago that involved Timmy and Tommy, but I can't remember how I activated this. It's a glitch involving the pitch of their dialogue during the phrase, "Is there anything else we can help you with?" By selecting their options in a specific order, then canceling out of them, it resulted in that one line of dialogue getting really loud and high-pitched. At first I thought this was some kind of intentional Easter egg, like they get angry at you for being so indecisive, but I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to be in there. At one point, I'm fairly certain I was able to consistently recreate it but it was so long ago I can't remember how to do it. Upon doing a little research, I couldn't seem to find anyone else that recalled this specific phenomenon, but there is a documented glitch that allows for the pitch of the typing voice to change, which occurs by talking to a villager after they have a conversation in which they get sad. Maybe there's some kind of connection between the two, or something similar that I didn't even realize when I activated it, but what that missing piece would be, I have no idea. But moving on to another location, the Able Sisters shop has another mistake in it, which I first learned about on that Lost Animal Crossing fan site, with their cash register only having 9 buttons on it. It's missing the 0 at the bottom, which I guess would make it pretty hard for them to charge you those 350 bells when you design your own pattern, or maybe not if you never actually pay them for it. In a bit of an exploit, or benefit depending on how you look at this, by connecting your Game Boy Advance to the console and going to the shop, you're able to pull up the design tool on your handheld for free and design exactly as you would if you talked to them normally. So by paying all that money in real life for a Game Boy Advance and its connecting cable, you can save 350 bells in the game. I guess in the canon, this does save on the cost of materials. If you do choose to draw on the console, which was always my preferred choice, there were a few shortcuts I discovered that made the process a little more efficient, including flicking the C stick to change colors instantly rather than cycling through with the shoulder buttons. Regardless, make sure you still talk to Sable every time you go there to get new dialogue and for her to warm up to you. This is one of the earliest examples in the whole series of consistently talking to a character to unlock more of their personality. And now for that fake secret I mentioned earlier, which isn't true at all, and was one of the less popular rumors you heard about pretty infrequently, so back then you could believe there was maybe some truth to it. This one attempts to give more purpose to another mundane spot in the game, the Lighthouse, which is probably why it became an easy target for a hoax. In fact, unless you played the game a lot back in the day, you probably wouldn't know that there is a real event connected to this location. Twice a year, Tortimer will go on vacation and ask you to turn on the lighthouse while he's gone, allowing the player to enter through the back and flip a switch. If you do this for enough consecutive days, he'll reward you with an event item when he returns, either the lighthouse model or box of chocolates, depending on the month you complete the event in. Unfortunately, this is all the purpose there is to the lighthouse, but there was a rumor that claimed Tom Nook had a secret connection to it. If you caught 5 golden stag beetles and gave them to Tom Nook, he would reward you with an item called the Silver Key, which unlocked the lighthouse and allowed the player to go inside and collect bags of bells containing thousands in riches. Unfortunately, there are no other quests at this location, and golden stag beetles don't even exist in the GameCube game. They weren't introduced until City Folk. But it is interesting to know that Tortimer is actually the person responsible for lighting it every night. And if the player fails at this task while Tortimer is away, nothing bad happens, the light just simply stays off. And once Tortimer returns, he won't give you the event exclusive reward. This is sort of an anomaly and one that I've only seen in the game once. You could say it was only discovered because of my obsession with the villager Punchy when I was a kid. For some reason my brother and I always favored this villager above most of the other ones, and for that reason we talked to him a lot. In fact, I talked to him so much that I found a typo in the game. In this phrase, Punchy states that he's going to eat dinner before he stakes out a spot, but he says before twice. This was the first and only time I've ever come across a typo in the game, but upon looking into it further, Jeff has made a series of videos documenting various typos, and there are more that appear in the GameCube version, along with plenty in the other games as well. And something else that I never thought I'd see again, but you actually can replicate, is the flying snail glitch. I witnessed this myself back in 2012 when I would film myself playing the game, when I simply caught a snail and released it, only to watch it fly like any other bug. For years I had no idea what caused this, and believed it was a once-in-a-million glitch, but according to the comments on another video that documented it, this happens every time you release a snail when your pockets are full. Now let's talk about another feature of the game involving the environment, but one that is never actually seen. Have you ever looked up and noticed that there is no visible sky in this game at all? You might not even realize that until having played the other games in the series where the sky is so prominent. So instead, the pond is used as an extension of the sky and reflects anything that's happening in it, like the fireworks or harvest moon. This is a really clever way to handle that limitation. Though it's humorous to see all of the villagers looking up at it, while there's no option in the game for the player to even move their head. Even the present balloons that float through the air just exist on a higher level than the player, giving the illusion that they're in the sky and can be shaken down from a tree once they get stuck. Oh, and if you end up chasing a balloon into a bunch of trees, sometimes, depending on your position, the clock, which is almost always at the bottom right of the screen, will end up changing to the bottom left. I didn't know it could change positions at all. With that said, those are some more of the inside details about Animal Crossing on GameCube that I wanted to share. Some you might have heard about before, and others that are more obscure. Like I said before, it's the game that keeps on giving, and even in the smallest of details, there's always something new to discover. After having booted the game up again for this video, it makes me want to get back into it and play more frequently. So maybe we'll have a third installment to this series eventually and make it a trilogy. It's the game that keeps playing whether you are or not, and for that reason, it'll always be my favorite. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Look forward to special releases all month long to celebrate my 15th channel anniversary. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Finn.